is Astrid, and welcome back to the channel. So today I felt like doing something like kind of different. I actually kind of been listening to a lot of like 1980s pop music all week long, so I kind of wanted to do like some pop based music today. Um, but my idea of pop is always going to be a little bit different than what's currently out there. Um, Again, I listen to a lot of different stuff. I listen to a lot of like older music, jazz, R&B, synth style pop, um, stuff like that. So those types of things I generally am kind of attracted to. But in doing so, it also inspires me to try to create my own styles based upon some of those genres and things that I'm listening to. And this project that I was messing around with is just kind of one of them. So let's go ahead and just get started. Okay, so the very first thing that I kind of focused on with this track was the bass line. Bass line is kind of uh, kind of one of those typical, kind of straightforward, kind of pattern bass lines. Let me just kind of show you what I did with it. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my Access virus. The timing on it is a little off with this control center. I keep getting this sync error, and when it does that, what happens is when you try to actually start playing and syncing up with what you're playing with live, it gets off by a couple of seconds, which is really bizarre. They have this button that allows you to be able to put it into live mode. But what I've noticed is when you do that, it does sync up. But when you try to go to record the audio from it, it's still off by a couple of milliseconds, which is, this just drives me crazy. But I'm still living with it. It's better than trying to make the other editors kind of work. Um, but the sound that I wanted to be able to use is actually in the virus. It's very 1980s kind of synth-ish sound. So let me just kind of show you what I did with that. I'll just start right here. So again, kind of think about 1980s style music. That's kind of the bass line for it. From there, I added like a pad kind of bass sound, and I used the Prophet for that. And let me just kind of show you one of them. I ended up doubling it up because I wanted to have it like widened in the stereo band. And I have one panned left and the other one panned right, so that gave me a wider field of range with it. But this is what this one is doing. So also with that, I'm using Kyle Beats' new plugin called Drip, and I have really been tinkering around with this thing quite a bit, and it does give you quite a bit of the kind of delayed and or modified kind of sound design sounds that we're used to hearing in today's music. Also, the lo-fi sounds are actually pretty decent as well, and the settings that are available um, are very basic, but it also gives you the ability and flexibility of being able to change things, add or subtract from the current presets, or build your own preset. I may get into building my own presets from it, but for right now, I've been just kind of tinkering around with the stock ones. Um, but I'm really, really happy with this plugin. It's very cool, very, very nice for adding a little bit of flavor to like a real basic sound. And that's what I got with the Prophet from that. So the next thing I focused on, I wanted to play guitar. I wanted it to be something basic, like just a rhythmic pattern. So that's what I ended up doing with this. And with that, I added just a guitar rig, and I'm using a patch called Hardcore 51, which is under the styles, under the pop styles. And I've just got a basic FabFilter Pro Q3 that's doing a low cutoff on it. So, got a drum sample in there, just basic kind of trap rhythm. And I've got vocal snip in here that I ended up doing some work as far as using like let me just kind of show you what I did. So I pulled in a limiter. I have a saturator. I have an 8 EQ. I have a secondary 8 EQ, and then I have a reverb in there. So I'm using a combination of the stock Ableton plugins for vocal manipulation. And I've also am using a Slate Digital virtual mixer. And what that's doing for me is I'm using the pop vocal preset, and it really brightened things up when I added this because it's adding some compression and also that stock British EQ that it uses. Um, and then the thing that really added something to it was this vocal synth 2. I'm using a preset in here. It's like a chorused effect. So that kind of gave me like a chorused kind of balanced sound. Um, so again, I've been experimenting a lot with vocals, and it was because of my experiences from my local vocal sessions that it got me thinking a little bit differently about how to handle vocals. And you don't really know how to handle vocals unless you actually have to do it. So I really don't have any real tips for someone trying to learn how to deal with vocals other than maybe downloading some vocal snips from like Splicer, from whatever sample service that you use, Loop Masters, um, and just start experimenting with the sounds. That's really the only way that you're going to be able to train your ears to be able to kind of get yourself acclimated into how to handle them. Otherwise, you can use your own voice, which I know we all don't sing, and I'm not the greatest singer on earth at all. But I found when I was forcing myself to use my own vocals that it allowed me to be able to really hone in and understand the compression, how it works. Also, how to use EQ and how to really balance things out with EQ. Also, the use of reverbs. Reverbs are they're a necessary evil um, because under normal circumstances or normally when you're recording, you want to give the vocals like a bit of space. And you do so by doing either a delay or a combination of a delay and a reverb, which gives it more spatial room dynamics. Otherwise, it sounds very dry and very flat with it being in the center of the mix. And you hear that a lot on a lot of the streamed mixes. Um, Everything is for lead vocals always like right in the middle, but they add a bit of reverb to really open it up, and you don't necessarily hear the echoes necessarily, the widened reverb echoes. They normally use it like in a tight kind of way, but it just gives it just enough room. At least those are the things I've been listening to for the past few months when I go to listen to vocal mixes. Um, and when you add it in with the music behind it, it really changes the way that the vocal sits in a mix. But again, you really, the only way that you can really understand how those things work is by working with vocals, and it takes a while to learn it. Um, I'm love to be able to get to the point of adding more dynamics to my vocals and like doing the different types of vocal effects changes. Those are lessons that are coming. Um, And I've been doing some of those types of things in the past, but I have to retrain my ears to keep current and do different things and be more experimental with it. Um, but again, it's about practice, and you don't get better unless you actually practice. So the next thing I added was an ARP Odyssey. I am a big fan of the Korg ARP Odyssey. It's an old school synth that was ported. Um, this is the, I want to say this is the Arturia version. Yeah, this is the Arturia version. Um, and this thing is awesome. You can get in there and actually tinker around with it as well and make your own patches. A lot of these, the Arturia based synths, I really like that they modeled them almost, I would say, 98% close to the real instrument, down to the point where you can change um, a lot of the oscillators and the LFOs and waveform effects. Um, it's if you were trying to go after a specific sound, and you only had access to the software based version, you could pretty much get away with using just the software based version, and get about as close as you could if you were actually using the real thing. Now, of course, the real instruments, they're designed with a specific electrical circuits, which makes them sound a little different. So whatever instrument they use to do their sample modeling for this is what you're kind of stuck with. But it's very, very good. It's not bad. Um, but I love using this because of the tones that I can get from it. So I ended up finding like a bell based tone for it, and this is what it's doing. It's a brass tone, I'm sorry. Okay, so I was thinking about the other synth, the final synth that I added, which is a CS80. The CS80 and its version 3, it's another Altaria ported synth. Um, it's another old school synth as well, and it has a plethora of functionality where you can pretty much go a knit on a patch and create your own patches with it. Um, all of the Altaria keyboard collection, they're all designed to allow you to be able to manipulate them and create your own patches. So if if I were like looking for a flexible keyboard synth based pack, and I really like a lot of old synths, the Arturia collection is definitely the way to go because they have lots of really good synth selection, as well as the ability to be able to make changes to those synths. So, but this is the one that I did the bell. So it's kind of a hollowed out kind of bell. So I added drip to this one. I'm using the Exile patch, and I knocked it off a little bit. But I also added some Portal. The Portal, I'm using a Scattered Thoughts patch, and I changed my grains a little bit, and I'm not using the full, like in its full wet phase. I'm kind of in the dry range, like 42% in the dry. So, and I've got a cutoff filter and low cutoff EQ in there as well to knock down the low end. That is all I've got for this one. And I added a little bit of an effect at the beginning. It's just a riser, and that's it. That's all I did for this one. But again, I was kind of going after kind of a pop feel, and I feel like I did that I need to experiment a little bit more with transitions with it. Um, and that's just going to require me to spend a lot more time building and exploring what direction to go from a arrangement perspective. So what I did was I created a hook, verse, pre-hook, and then hook again. Um, Again, I use templates for building songs so that I'm not um, trying to figure out an arrangement for every song, that I can at least have like a standard that I can just kind of go to and really start building process. And I've been using this method for a while, and makes it easier for me to be able to build songs from an arrangement perspective, and it works. I like changing things up from time to time. I don't want every song to be the same, um, and I try to do that as much as possible. And it works. It works. But if you're in a position where you're just kind of stuck every time you sit down, you want to go to arrange something, and you're just not really sure. Definitively, creating a template has made it like super easy to do. That way, when you're sitting down, you don't have to worry about every time that you try to build something, how to build it. Of course, you can use your ears and down the road make changes, the length of the hooks, the length of the verses. You know, maybe you want to add a bridge or something like that. Um, those things can be added fairly simple. Um, and that's all I've got for you guys today. If you have questions, or if you have any requests as well for things that you would like to see, or a subject that you would like me to talk about, please leave a comment down in the comment section. Um, I'm, I'm reaching out to you guys to try to find out what other content you would be interested in me doing on the channel. I know I'm always doing different things, not really looking for um, content changes. I'm just looking for ideas for things that you guys may be interested in, some of the stuff that I'm doing um, from a technical perspective, or maybe just music in general, um, for me to like elaborate on. If there's a question about something and you want more of a deep dive into it, I can create more shows that kind of deep dive into specific topics based upon what information that you guys are looking for. As always, I'm always sharing my personal experiences on my channel. Um, a lot of the previous material that I've posted from a content perspective have all been based upon things that I've been having issues with, or I've encountered all kinds of conflicting information on, where I wanted to like put a simple, more straightforward resource for the information, um, make it available, and I've helped quite a few people, especially with the MPC stuff. I'm thinking about doing another MPC video follow up. Um, I gave up my MPC Touch trying to make it work with my DAW. It was just a frivolous act trying to make that thing work directly with my DAW. It's more easier for me to be able to just use the DAW and then have it be just a sound source. But when I tell people that, they're scratching their head going, how are you doing that? And it's not as complicated as it sounds. It's just like pulling and dragging in a VST and then just using my keypad from my push to trigger the drums. And that's basically what I've done. I created myself a drum rack that follows the sound template for the MPC software, so I can bank out to all the different banks that I want to using the sound packs. I never got into creating my own sound packs in it. I just always loved the sound packs that Akai provided. And that was really the only thing that I really love about the MPC is the sound sources. They have really good sounds, and they're mixed and mastered in a very clean and concise way. Um, The snares are really tight. Um, the kicks are really tight and crispy, and um, there's a the sound selection is incredible. So those are the things that I found that were useful out of keeping the Akai MPC software going and continuing to use it. Other than that, there was just way too many technical issues with the MPC Touch and trying to make it be my master controller, and also making the MPC software um, like a synced source with the DAW, which was impossible. Um, it was never a time when I could get it to sync concurrently with the DAW and have it work in a way that I could use um, the sequencing within the software, um, and not have issues. So I may do a follow up to that because I get questions all the time. People asking me the best way to use their MPC with their DAW, and honestly, I'm just being completely and totally honest and transparent. Again, I can only tell you by my own personal experiences with it. The MPC is great. Don't get me wrong. It's one of those hip hop romanticized pieces of equipment from the past that people have seen it so much. It's like I, I would compare it to a pair of Converses. You've seen a lot of them in the past, and or not just even Converses, like what are the other pairs? The Air Jordans from the past. Even though that they're still creating new ones, people are they're so romanticized by it that they have put it in this really high category of expectation, um, and it's kind of a pop culture kind of thing. And while you can still use it for creating music in a standalone way, being able to be proficient and and do music in more modern terms is almost impossible with those devices. Um, you're having to do a lot of exporting of sounds to be able to get them into your DAW so that you can manipulate it to add additional parts, unless you're doing all of the parts inside of the device. It was just a lot of extra work that I just wasn't happy with. And on top of that, I felt I was getting way more value out of learning my DAW 100% completely, because I could do all of the timing things for the MPC inside of my DAW. Basically, there's nothing specifically special about the MPC. The timing is the same as everything else. Um, I don't know what else to say about it. Um, and I'm sorry, Akai, but it's the truth. They even know it. Um, but anyway, so I may do a follow up to that, just so that I can satisfy those questions that I get all the time about that. And that's all I have for you today. I'll see you on the next one.